When the existential dread hits and your inner critic tells you that your life is a mess and that you have no purpose, stop right there. Do not engage with the default mode network. I want you to pull your central executive network back online by asking yourself one simple question. Is this an identity crisis or a biology crisis?
Midlife in Motion is the podcast for women who want to reclaim their metabolism, maintain their mobility, and recognize their divine worth. I'm your host, Angie Collingwood, fitness and yoga instructor, body confidence, and menopause coach. This show bridges the gap between science and soul. We move beyond quick fixes to discuss the real pillars of longevity. Get ready to start dancing into midlife.
Thank you for being here with me and supporting me through this journey. The time has flown by and we are already at episode number 25. The zone of chaos, the midlife collision. If you feel like your body has suddenly been hijacked, this episode is for you. If you have been feeling like you are operating in a state of constant low-grade chaos lately, if you are suddenly waking up with aching joints, feeling like bugs are crawling on your legs, experiencing ringing in your ears, or forgetting words in the middle of a sentence, please hear me. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You are not losing your mind. You are not failing, and you are not alone. You are simply operating a body undergoing massive neuroendocrine remodeling. The chaos is biological, and the best way to support a body in biological chaos is to radically lower your expectations, stop self-blame, and prioritize active regulation of the nervous system. When women hit midlife, we don't just experience one type of stress, we experience a massive collision of demands. We expect ourselves to have it all together by this age. So when the chaos hits, we default to that familiar self-blame. We think, I should be able to handle this. But today we are going to look at the reality of the midlife load. We are going to break down exactly why this season feels so incredibly chaotic, and more importantly, how to stop fighting against the chaos and start managing our nervous system. The three fronts of the midlife crisis. Understanding the load. Midlife chaos is unique because it hits us on three completely different fronts at the exact same time. It is a biological, relational, and emotional collision. First, the relational squeeze, the sandwich generation. Midlife is often the exact moment when the seesaw of caretaking tips in both directions. You might be managing the intense emotional and logistic needs of teenagers or young adults who are launching into the world while simultaneously stepping into a caretaking role for your aging parents. The mental load of managing everyone else's medical appointments, emotional crises, and daily needs, it can be staggering. Second, the biological shift. Just as your external demands peak, your internal biology decides to remodel the house. Perimenopause and menopause bring massive hormonal fluctuations. Your estrogen and progesterone drop, which disrupts your sleep, drains your physical energy, and makes your nervous system far more sensitive to stress. You are carrying your heaviest load right when your biological shock absorbers are wearing thin. Third is the identity reckoning. While all of this is happening, the default mode network in your brain is waking up and asking huge existential questions. You start wondering, who am I outside of being a mother or a professional? Is this all there is? The internal identity shift can feel incredibly destabilizing and chaotic. Let's discuss more about the biology. Why does the body feel so chaotic? When we understand the biology behind the chaos, rather than dropping into the exhausting weight of self-blame, we can find compassion for ourselves. We are taught that menopause is just our bodies slowly running out of eggs, causing our periods to stop and giving us a few hot flashes. But biologically, that is completely inaccurate. The shift into menopause is a massive neurological remodeling process. Here are the three main shifts causing the chaos. First is the loss of the chill pill. Progesterone is usually the first hormone to drop in perimenopause. In the brain, progesterone is converted into a neurosteroid that stimulates GABA receptors. GABA is your nervous system's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. It is essentially your brain's natural Valium. It calms you down and helps you sleep. When progesterone suddenly drops, your brain literally loses its natural calming agent. This is why women suddenly experience crippling, unprompted anxiety and 3 a.m. insomnia, even if their external life is perfectly fine. Second is the roller coaster of the master regulator. Estrogen does not just gently decline, it spikes and crashes during perimenopause. Estrogen is a master neuroregulator. It helps produce serotonin for happiness and well-being, and dopamine for motivation and reward. And it regulates the brain's energy levels. When estrogen crashes, your brain actually experiences a temporary energy crisis. This is the root of menopause brain fog. You aren't losing your mind. Your brain is just struggling to metabolize glucose effectively in the absence of estrogen. Third, the unbuffered stress response. Cortisol spikes. Because estrogen and progesterone are your nervous system's shock absorbers, their absence leaves your stress hormone, cortisol, completely unbuffered. A minor stressor like running 5 minutes late or spilling a glass of water that your body used to handle easily now triggers a massive cortisol spike. You're instantly thrown into fight or flight. This is the sympathetic nervous system because the biological safety nets are gone. We hear about the common signals of perimenopause, but what are some of the random signals? Because estrogen receptors are located everywhere in the body, in your brain, heart, skin, joints, and digestive tracts, the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause go far beyond hot flashes, are some of the most bizarre and chaotic and rarely discussed signals. First, frozen shoulder and joint pain. Estrogen acts as a natural anti-inflammatory and helps lubricate your joints and tendons. When it drops, women often experience sudden sharp joint aching or develop frozen shoulder out of nowhere, often waking up unable to lift their arm. Electric shocks or zap sensation, often occurring just before a hot flash. Women will feel a literal zap or electric shock sensation, usually across the head, neck, or chest. This is the misfiring of neurons in the brain as it struggles to regulate temperature. Burning mouth syndrome, a literal burning, scalding, or tingling sensation on the tongue, lips, or roof of the mouth. Dropping estrogen alters the pain receptors in the mouth and reduces saliva production. Sudden histamine intolerance or new allergies. Estrogen and histamine are closely linked. When estrogen wildly spikes during perimenopause, it triggers the release of histamine. Women may suddenly develop hives, extreme allergies to foods they've eaten their entire lives, or suddenly become unable to tolerate things they used to without getting a migraine. Tinnitus, ringing in the ears. Sudden ringing, buzzing, or whooshing sounds in the ears. There are estrogen receptors in the inner ear, and fluctuation in estrogen levels can alter blood flow and nerve transmission in the auditory pathways. Heart palpitations, a suddenly racing or pounding heart completely out of the blue, often while lying in bed. This is incredibly scary and sends many women to the ER, but is often the nervous system misfiring due to hormonal fluctuations. Now, I don't want you to get the idea that you shouldn't go to the ER if you experience something like this. It's better to be safe than sorry. But just know that this could be one of the contributing factors. Changes in body odor. A sudden distinct change in how sweat smells. Hormonal shifts alter the skin's bacterial balance, and women often find their normal deodorant suddenly stops working entirely. The crawling sensation or formication. Women often experience a tactile hallucination of ants or other bugs crawling on or just beneath their skin. This happens because a drop in estrogen causes nerve endings to misfire. I sometimes get an itchy sensation just under my skin on my feet that will not go away when I scratch it. This will sometimes wake me up in the middle of the night. I have found that spraying magnesium oil on the spot and rubbing it in will usually help take it away within a few minutes. And check the show notes for a link for where you can find some magnesium oil. Heavy periods, decreased progesterone, lower estrogen metabolism, hormonal fluctuations, and uterine changes can contribute to heavier bleeding. I have found that a supplement called DIM can assist with this. Check the show notes for a link and make sure to check with your doctor for any supplements that you decide to use. Next, let's discuss the identity shift. Right as your physical shock absorbers are disappearing and cortisol is spiking, your brain's default mode network, that time-traveling, meaning-making part of your brain, which we will discuss more on this another time, this part of your brain starts asking massive existential questions. You look in the mirror at a body that feels unfamiliar. You look at your changing role as a mother, a spouse, or a professional, and your default mode network starts asking, who am I if I am not the person I used to be? What is my actual purpose now? Is this all there is? This is the identity reckoning, and it is colliding perfectly with all the biological shifts happening. You are trying to answer the heaviest, most complicated philosophical questions of your entire life using a nervous system that is completely exhausted and highly reactive. No wonder you feel like you're failing. Your identity feels profoundly fragile. Let's discuss some strategies for managing the chaos. So how do we stop the spinning? When the chaos hits, our default reaction is usually to white knuckle it. We try to organize, color code, and push through the exhaustion using the same strategies we used to use in our 20s and 30s. But you cannot manage a midlife load with a 30-year-old's nervous system. We need to untangle the biology from our identity. When the existential dread hits and your inner critic tells you that your life is a mess and that you have no purpose, stop right there. Do not engage with the default mode network. I want you to pull your central executive network back online by asking yourself one simple question. Is this an identity crisis or a biology crisis? Most of the time, the despair you are feeling at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday isn't because your life lacks meaning. It is because you haven't slept properly in 4 days. Your hormones are fluctuating and your nervous system is biologically tapped out. You cannot solve an identity crisis when you are in a biological deficit. Give yourself permission to put the big existential questions on a shelf and tell yourself, I do not have to figure out my grand life purpose today. Today, my only job is to aggressively care for my nervous system. Here is what we need to do instead. First, recalibrate your biological baseline. We have to drop the myth that we should be operating at the same speed we always have. Our biology has simply changed, and fighting that reality only creates more suffering. Let's give ourselves permission to lower the bar. If your sleep is disrupted by hormones, your primary strategy must be aggressive energy conservation. You don't need more discipline. You really just need more rest. Second, deploy the stressor matrix. When the chaos feels all-consuming, you have to separate what you can control from what you cannot. You cannot control your aging parents' health decline, but you can control your boundaries around how much you physically do versus what you can delegate. Evaluate your stressors and separate the high value from the low value stressors. Drop those low value obligations like perfectionist tendencies for hosting that perfect social gathering, and accept the things you cannot change. Allow yourself to experience deep self-compassion. Third, establish micro anchors. When your life feels like a hurricane, you cannot rely on massive 2-hour self-care routines. The chaos will inevitably disrupt them and triggering your inner critic. Instead, you need micro anchors. Stack a 3-minute nervous system reset onto something you already do every day. Part of that could be using the physiological sigh while waiting at a stoplight. Take a deep, full breath in through your nose, and at the very top of that breath, take a quick, sharp second inhale to fully maximize your lung capacity. And then exhale slowly and completely through your mouth. Let's try this together. Repeat that 1 to 3 times whenever you feel stressed or overwhelmed. Another micro anchor is to practice affect labeling while washing your face at night. Instead of saying to yourself, I'm so anxious, which labels you and can increase your inner critic's role, label what you are feeling. Say to yourself instead, I am feeling anxious right now, or I am experiencing a lot of anxiety at this moment. These tiny moments can pull your nervous system back online and signal safety to your body. Fourth is active versus passive offloading. Midlife exhaustion makes us crave numbness. At the end of a chaotic day of managing teenagers and parents, doom scrolling for 2 hours feels like a reward. But remember, numbing out is not recovery. Numbing just kicks the stress down the road to face later on. You must fiercely protect small pockets of nervous system regulation, like a 10-minute walk without your phone or sitting on the porch in silence. The takeaway. The goal of midlife is not to perfectly organize the chaos. The goal is to build a nervous system that feels safe even when life gets messy. You are carrying an enormous load right now. Please stop adding the weight of self-judgment to your life. Use your micro anchors. Do your physiological size. Offload those low-value stressors. Lower your baseline expectations and rest without guilt. Take the steps you need to stabilize your biology. Give your nervous system other shock absorbers like deep rest and self-compassion so that the identity reckoning won't feel like a crisis anymore. It will just feel like a transition. And you are more than capable of navigating a transition. Treat yourself with the same fierce compassion you so freely give to everyone else in your life. It can really make a difference in your experience in this transition. Here is a quote to ponder. Midlife is the time for a woman to let go of who she's been trying to be and embrace who she truly is. Connect with the divine to remember who you truly are. You are incredibly important. Your power, your wisdom, and your actions are needed. You are so necessary, and you are so deeply capable. I am so honored to be walking this journey with you. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
You are building a foundation for the next 40 plus years of your life, brick by brick, breath by breath. You are a miracle. Treat yourself like one. If you know a woman who needs to hear this, please share this episode and remember to subscribe. I'm Angie Collingwood. Keep moving and dancing. This is Midlife in Motion. I'll see you soon.